The Scorpio races, by my blood. Chapter 2. The stallion bolted across the fields. I had never in my life felt speed like this before as I crouched low like a jockey over his withers and went with his rhythm. His huge strides eat up the ground and his speed takes away my breath. I can feel his magic seeking to seize control of me so he can take me to the sea. But I remember myself in every stride by remembering the feel of my first pony's mane in my fingers, the scent of sweet hay and young horses. I remember myself when I think of mare's milk dripping from the whiskers of a newborn foal. I remember myself even in the scent of the salty sea air. How I love it. Fallon senses my slight daze and swerves, bringing me back to reality. I check his speed, glancing under my arm and finding that I cannot see my house. Fallon gallops with ferocity. So much for the cove, I think. I use all of my strength to turn the stallion back around. He whips in a tight and impossibly quick turn and does not slow down as we gallop uphill. I turn him again to follow a sloping path to the cove. When we get down the path, I am not worried about taking the sharp turns on him. I know he can do them. I feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins and I am panting. I let him sweep around the final turn of the path into the cove, and I hear his hoofbeats echo on the chalk cliffs as his run takes us down the beach. He is ever mindful of the sea, and I hold my left hand out to the side so he turns his head towards the cliffs. I feel his body bend sharply in a way no horse should be able to, as he tries to break my hold and take me into the sea. But I hold firm and we fly down the beach with speed unmatched, I know, even by Sean Kendrick's red stallion and Mutt Malvin's fiendish piebald mare. In no time at all I can see the end of the cove. I see the rocks that mark the end of the usable beach, and I turn him in a tight circle, forcing his strides to shorten and slow to a trot, then stop. I rest my gloved hand against him, concentrating to feel for any heat that would mark exertion, but he is as cool as he was when I first took him from the stall. I lean slightly to the left to see his black nostrils are still. He is amazing. I canter him back up the cliffs, and for a moment I forget that I ride the most dangerous creature to exist. I remove my saddle and put him in his halter, which is now wrapped with thin red ribbons to keep him calm. He despises the ribbon. It offends him. But it is a precaution I feel necessary now that the 1st of November lurks in the shadows. Fallon jerks his head up, his nose working furiously to detect whatever caused him to jump, but he calms again. I do not trust him, but I'm not wary of him yet. I hose him off, and he shudders as the water covers him. I know he enjoys it, so I let the water run over him longer than I need to, and I return him to his stall for a well-earned lunch. As I watch him eat his expensive cuts of sheep, the blood dripping from his lips to the floor, I know that I love him. It is crazy to love what could kill me so easily, but I cannot help it. He is something that I never imagined for myself. Beautiful, powerful, and swift. He will win the Scorpio races for me, and I trust him. Fallon flicks a sharp and shapely ear towards me, and he keens to me, and I make the slow and quiet shh, shh, shh sound. Fallon closes his pale yellow eyes and seems to listen to my sounds. Insane as it is, I have come to love the Keppel Ishka standing before me in so short a time. The ride I had today proved that. Fallon came to me again, and I continued with my shushing. When Fallon finished his meal, I halted him. Just because I was not training didn't mean I couldn't go down to the beach. My shoulder pressed into his as I led him to the sea. We descended the path down to the beach. He is pushing on me as hard as I am pushing against him. His neck strains towards the sea, and my hands are slick with his sweat and mine. His head jerks towards the sea, but I reach up and grab his curved ear hard and whisper into it. He is calmed by whatever I say to him, as even while I say it, I do not know what comes out. I can feel the form of the words on my tongue, but I do not hear them. The stallion stands still. I am not stared at, as most girls would be on a day like today out on the beach, as I am stocky in build and broad-shouldered as a young boy, with short hair just long enough to catch in a ponytail. I can smell the blood on the sand even from where I stand. I do not trust the horse in my hands right now. He is wild as the moment I caught him. I wait for him to rear, pulling my rod of iron out of my pocket. I will not use it unless I have to. I pull the stone with a small hole through the middle, and undo the throat latch of the halter quickly, stringing the stone to it so he will not scream, before clipping it back into place. He half rears, his head shaking, nostrils quivering, and the scent of the sea and blood driving him mad. Perhaps it is the other Kapell Ishka who gallop in packs down the sand. A rider falls, and his horse is upon him, tearing out his throat. "Mara!" calls a familiar voice. I turn my head slightly, keeping an eye on my black horse. "Kendrick," I say. "Where's Cor?" "I already ran him on the cliffs," he replies, dark hair ripped out of place by the wind. "What have you managed to get yourself?" He looks over Fallon, pole to shoulder, shoulder to knee to hock, and back up to the curve of the stallion's spine, then down to his stifle. "What do you think?" I asked, pushing Fallon's head away from me so he couldn't bite me. Sean was not one to let his emotions show outwardly, but he looked back at the stallion one final time before speaking. "How fast is he?" he asked. "Very," I replied, not daring to say, "faster than Cor." Sean stepped forward and placed a hand against the red lead rope. I released my hold on it, and Sean took my horse from my grasp. Fallon was immediately disquieted by this, but Sean, who taught me everything I know about the Kapell Ishka, was able to calm him back down. "May I?" he asked. I nodded, wanting Sean to approve of the stallion, and trusting him to take care of him. I followed Sean to his saddle where it sat leaning against a rock. The bridle was tossed over it, the bit doubled back over the straps to keep the sand from getting on it. "Let me hold him. He's a bit restless when you tack him up, and this will only be the second time he has been backed." "When did you back him?" Sean asked, putting his pad over Fallon's back, and then laying his saddle down gently, checking the fit. He pulled the girth under his belly and tightened it. I snapped the lead rope down when Fallon moved to bite, and he jerked his head up. "Earlier today," I admitted. "He was marvelous." The thought of him racing along beneath me made me breathless. Fallon shook his mane, ears switching back and forth between my voice and the song of the sea. Sean looped the reins over Fallon's head and slowly removed the halter. Fallon opened his jaw and screamed to the sea, but Sean had the iron bit between his lips faster than I ever could have imagined, and Fallon, slightly offended, stopped his call and allowed Sean to finish tightening the straps. "He's well-mannered at least, so long as you do not hesitate." I nodded. It took hours of patience to get him like this. "When did you catch him?" asks Kendrick. I gaze into the stallion's pale eyes and smile. 4 nights ago," I say. Sean looks up at the stallion and appraises the lupine head and longer mouthline that is common with horses still fresh out of the sea. His nostrils are still but slits in his long nose, and his thin ears curl inward in a way no horse's should. "Only 4, he whispers. "You must be feeding him now," Sean reasons. I nod, but he does not see it. Sean is lifting his lanky form onto Fallon. Fallon stands still and quiet as a mouse as he adjusts to the feel of him, and Fallon trots out briskly under the diligent hands of Sean Kendrick. They trot in a large circle and are given a wide berth, not only because of the rider, but I believe because of Fallon's strange, pale gold eyes and striking coloration, black and white but not piebald. Sean asks for a canter, deepening his seat to sit the rhythm of the stallion. Fallon is striking, knees snap up like a dressage horse, and his head is down near his chest. He flicks his tail and snorts, his movement lovely. He has an excellent shoulder, like a lot of Kapell Ishka. Sean holds him, his hands work the reins, and he turns Fallon down the long stretch of beach. Sean tucks himself low. His dark form seems to be one with my horse as they fly down the sand. Sean keeps him far from the sea, and I notice how Fallon bends his nose towards it. Sean is smart. They are far down the beach, and I follow them with my eyes, as do many of the riders, who have their mouths agape with the speed of my horse. His strides are effortless and huge, his speed never faltering even as they reach a bit of sand that has been deepened and loosened by the beating of thousands of runs on the beach. I watch awestruck as Sean turns my stallion and gallops him back towards me. They are 20 yards from me when Sean slows and halts the stallion with a deepened seat and hands that are very sure of themselves. He jumps down from the stallion, a hand on the saddle which lays flat on my horse, and smiles, handing the reins to me. It was a ghost of a smile, but a smile nonetheless, and a smile I've only ever seen when he's on the back of the red stallion. I want to race them.